So I want, as we kick into this next section, here's what we're going to be talking about here is I'm going to take this model that we reviewed. So those of you who are in spirit groups, this is part of the training. This is advanced training. Some of you may still not have gotten to that point yet, and that's okay. But what I want to share with you in this next section is how do you take this model? It's kind of like how do you take principle and map over it what's happening so that we can be adaptable and innovate and change. So I'm going to be doing that in this section. I'm also going to be sharing with you what is new, what is rolling out for 2020, and I am super excited to share that with you. So that's coming up in this section as well as an opportunity to connect again in some small groups and have some discussion. So look at you guys. I hope you're having a good time. I hope you're enjoying connecting with each other and meeting new people and chatting and learning these new things. Thank you so much for all of you who are sharing amazing resources, books that you're using, curriculum that you're using, challenges that you have, asking questions. This is how we do it. This is how we navigate through times of incredible change. Is we come together, we share, here's the challenge, here's the seeming wall, obstacle, hurdle that I'm trying to get over, and then we brainstorm it together until we find our way through. And we keep doing that one baby step after the other. So what I want to share with you as we head into this afternoon session is, first of all, thank you to Jane and to Kevin for that fantastic presentation and sharing of what's happening in their community. You know, this is a time where mindset is everything. You know, that's what our teachings teach us is there's cause and effect, and it begins, we can change our mind, we can have a new thought, and it will create a new reality. So I just want to remind us of that as we start looking at, you know, how do we transition? We're in this, you know, we've had this quarantine experience. Now there's a lot for many of you. I know there's some people that are just ready to get back in there. Like, why aren't we meeting? Why aren't we meeting? And there's others that are a long way from feeling comfortable getting back into a pew with people that are not in their family groups. So it's a transition time, and it's a transition into something that we don't quite know what that future is going to look like. Chances are pretty good that this might be a wave of a transition, and then we might have to, you know, we might have to quarantine again. We might have to do this again. So my thought is let's look at the principles of engagement. How do you engage people into your community? And then let's map over that, what we now know about what's available to us. And hopefully for many of you, we've talked about Zoom, maybe technology. This is what's exciting to me, the technology that I used to be sort of waving my banner and saying, hey guys, we got to get tech savvy. We need to be able to connect. We need to be able to do things online. In the past, I found a lot of resistance to that. And what's, you know, one of the gifts of COVID has been that there's no, I don't want to do that. It's like, okay, the options now are be completely isolated from the world or get online. And what that's meant is so many people have gotten online, and that creates a whole new paradigm. And that's why we're not going back, because people have experienced things online that they were afraid to do before. And it's going to shift the way we do church in the future. Not only that, but I don't know if those of you who don't follow Dr. Gary Simmons' blog, it's fabulous. He posted something yesterday showing a picture of their sanctuary set up for social distancing. So you have these little family clusters, and they're all 6 feet apart, and it's not the same church that you left behind. It's not the same feel. It's not the same experience. You can't create the same experience in that kind of setting as you can when people are together. So what do we do? It begins with mindset. And I share this because I work with other types of groups too. I work with civic groups and nonprofit groups. I was working with a group on Friday. This was a civic group. Their club president was very antsy to get everybody back together again. And so what he decided to do, they had gone to Zoom, and actually were having tremendous success on Zoom. They were having their best attendance, better than they ever had in person. They were having great attendance on Zoom. But he was getting some pressure to meet in person again, either that or maybe he just wanted to meet in person again. So he decided that in addition to Zoom, he was going to also create an in-person experience for up to 25 people, because that's what we can do here in Colorado. So he had a Sign Up Genius. He had 20 people sign up for a meeting in person. Of those 20 people, only 13 actually showed up. And the impact of that was all of us, the 40 of us on Zoom, we were in a weird experience of having to watch a speaker who was really speaking to the people that were in the room. So in his, when we debriefed it, we're like, okay, so what was the thinking behind this? Well, the thinking was, one, this is what he shared. We're going to lose people if we don't meet in person again. So that was his fear. I don't want to lose people because we can't meet in person. And two, his second reason for meeting in person was, he said, I don't want to lose our space. So everything that was motivating him was based on what he didn't want to lose. And what we know is that when you focus on not wanting to lose something, it's not the same as when we focus on creating the vision. So what I want to invite us all to do is to focus on, where are we leading people? Instead of the temptation to say, I don't want to lose people, I don't want to lose giving, I don't want things to drop. Let's look instead at our mission, and where do we want to go, and what do we want to create, and what is the best path forward for us to create that. If you are a mission-centric ministry, chances are your mission has not changed. The how we create the mission has changed, but the mission has not. So that's what this is about. It's about not changing the mission or the values, but changing the how. How do we do that? Because the world has changed. So that's what I'm going to share with you in this session together. I know for myself, I was leading a community here in Evergreen, Colorado, and I am a licensed Unity teacher. And so when I was leading them, it was with the agreement through Unity that after a year, I would go through the field licensing program. And after a year, financially, they weren't in a space where they could support that. So rather than folding the ministry, what we decided to do was to extract the minister. They have hired someone, a Unity minister, to help them with their board meetings. And they are an exclusively small group, spirit group ministry, because the ministry is not about the talk or the sermon or the building or any of those things. We've heard it before. But the truth is, if you're focused on the mission, then it's all about how do we best fulfill the mission with the resources we have. And if you've got one person with a passion, you've got resources that can move that mission forward. Okay. Is that thunder? We have a little thunderstorm happening here in Colorado. So if I disappear, just go in the breakout room. I'll get right back on. Okay, so I want to share with you this model. And what I'm going to share specifically is what this could look like with what we're going through now with COVID. So I'm going to share with you, here's what I would do given this model. And I understand there's always more than one way to do it. But I am just sharing with you, this is the strategy that I would take based on my 7+ years of studying megachurch growth and creating the systems and the infrastructure to support that growth. Okay, so remember, this is our engagement strategy, and this is based on how do you get someone who has never known anything about your ministry, maybe never known anything about New Thought, how do you get them in the door? When you go through the engagement strategy process, what we've done, and those of you who have done it before, you have your strategy plan, it's time to adapt it. And it's just a matter of looking at, for each step, how do we move people from one step to the next? The principles remain the same. How we do it has changed. Cheryl says, please make sure you're recording. I think it's recording the main room, but I'm not 100% sure. But we'll cross our fingers. I'm pretty sure that it is. So here we go. Are you ready for this? This is, man, you're going to be telling everybody on your board, man, you should have been there. So this is something to hang on to. You ready? Here we go. Big reveal. There it is. Okay. So here it is. Here's the model that you've seen before, but this is the new revised engagement strategy. So we still have explore, engage, expand, express, and encourage. The steps, the principles remain the same. Okay, so here's what I would do. What we do in the engagement strategy training as part of spirit groups is we look at each one of these and we say, for each one of these, how do we bring people into this step and how do we lead them through it to the next step? So explorers, this is for people who have never heard of you before. And where do they go? So what is your first point of entry? Well, it's nice to have 2 options. In the past, 2 to 3 and 3 at the most, no more than 3. So for a lot of us, Sunday service was one of those points of entry, and spirit groups was a point of entry. So Now that we can't meet in person, that has changed. So what we have now is your online service. So I recommend Zoom, and I have a whole training on why that is. But I believe that Facebook is great for marketing. I think that Zoom is better for building community. So I use Facebook for marketing. I use Zoom for building community. This is one of our options. So if someone is new to our community and wants to find out more about us, we want to invite them to our virtual service. And what else do we have? Now we have our virtual, make sure you can see it, our virtual spirit groups, right? So now we're using Zoom again and taking our spirit groups online. So how do people find your ministry? One of these two ways. Your explorers are going to either find you through your online service or through your spirit groups. Now here's the cool thing. Check this out. In your online service, you're encouraging people to join a virtual spirit group. In your virtual spirit group, you're encouraging people to what? Yeah, to go to your online service. What I would recommend at this time is that you are creating your own 6-part series that will map onto your spirit group cycle. And what that does is it gives your spirit groups an opportunity to focus their people on your Sunday message. So you're creating consistency in terms of them seeing the minister, the message, and talking about the same thing. That is what I would be doing at this time using this model. So virtual online service where you have a 6-part series. Maybe you're talking about race. Maybe you're talking about prosperity. And in those, you send people, you create a discussion guide, you send them to their spirit groups where they can discuss it in a small virtual group. Those small virtual groups are then, you're interplaying with each other. So it doesn't matter how people find you, they are finding your groups and they're finding your church. Okay, so that's step 1. Now, once those explorers have found you, next we want to engage them. So how do you do that? Well, we got 2 options here. If they come to your virtual service, how do you engage them? That means, how do you make sure they don't just come once and then walk out the door? This is why doing a Facebook live stream is challenging. It's very difficult to go from Facebook Live to gathering someone's information. What I recommend is an opt-in to your welcome packet. So someone comes to your virtual service, you say, if you want to learn more about us, then opt in. There we go. From our virtual service, opt in to our welcome packet, and we'll send you a video welcome from our minister with more information. Jane says, are those spirit groups in Zoom breakout or separately? Depending on how big your spirit group is, because we don't have any rules or restrictions on how big they can get, I've seen it both ways. So you could have spirit group leaders that have their group on Zoom. You could also have a mega group, a mega spirit group that breaks into breakout groups for discussion. Great. Okay, so if they go to the online service, then you're going to ask them to opt in to get your welcome packet.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Oh, Siri's still talking to me. She thinks I'm asking it to play a song. Goodbye, Siri. Sorry for that. Okay, now if they come in through your spirit group, that's where we have Group Vitals. You heard Karen talk about it. You heard Stacy talk about it. Group Vitals is such a powerful tool, and it's a tool that's easy for your group leaders to use. So if someone comes into your ministry through a spirit group, you want to also be able to grab their contact information. And the way you do that is you say, hey, glad you could come. Can we add you to our mailing list so we can let you know about our future meetings? We want them to commit to the end of the spirit group session. So I would say you get their information, you put it into Group Vitals, and now you can follow up with them and say, you know, hey, here's our next session. Now they're part of your spirit group. So I'm going to put that over here. If they come to your virtual spirit group, then you get them to opt in through Group Vitals. Either way, you get their contact information. How do you create a virtual opt-in welcome packet, and how do they access it? So take that into our Facebook group. And I'm gonna, let's see, can you pop in this address? I'm gonna give you a URL. Sean's gonna type this in for me. So I'm not gonna go into that level of detail, but if you want to talk about that more, go to our Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/spirit groups. Ask me there and I'll take you beyond this training. Okay, cool. All right, so good stuff, right? There we go. Thank you, Sean. Okay, so now they're engaged because we've got them these explorers, they came, they checked it out, they liked it enough to share their contact information. So now that means we can tell them when there's a new series starting. That means we can tell them when our next group meeting is, all those types of things. Now they are engaged. So what we want to do next is we want to move them into this expand mode. Now remember, expand is where we start teaching them our principles. Before we ask them to serve on the board, before we ask them to lead a spirit group, before we do most of the things that we want to do instantly is, do you want to volunteer? What do you want to do? The first thing we need to do is to teach them, here's our philosophy, and make sure that they understand it. So a couple ways to do that. As I mentioned before, if it were me right now, as a minister, I would be doing 6-part series, and I would create a discussion guide, a virtual PDF discussion guide, or you can text your group leaders, give them a discussion guide for each one of your series, and then tie that into your spirit group cycle. So that's what I would be doing right now, is developing content that is relevant to what's happening right now, dealing with stress, healing, prosperity, race issues. Those are great things to be talking about right now. Do a series, because that's how they're going to learn. That's how they're going to learn what we teach and what we're about, what we stand for. Okay, now if they're in a spirit group, they're getting also a 6-part series, because that is part of our spirit group model, is 6 weeks of content. So we're going to get down here. They go from group vitals. Now we invite them to be part of the rest of our spirit group series. So over here, we expand their knowledge base. Over here, we're doing in-depth series where we're also expanding their knowledge base. All right, so as part of the spirit group cycle, we do 6 weeks of content, service project, social event, and then we have an opportunity. We have something that we call a celebration event. A celebration event in the past has been where you bring all your groups together, you throw a big potluck, every group shares what they did, what their service project was, what they learned, all that kind of thing. This is a fabulous thing to do online. You can take this online. You can take it to Zoom. You can take it to Facebook Live. I would take it to Facebook, because this can be a marketing event in addition to a community event. This is how you find out how they are expressing the things that they have learned in your series. So I'm going to put this right here. How do they do that? All right, so we're going to take them from the series, and now we're taking them to a celebration event. Now, what do you do in that celebration event? Let's see. What's a good color? I'm going to do some green. Okay, so in that celebration event, you always want to have the next step, because we're moving them into deeper and deeper levels of leadership. So from that celebration event, here's what I would do. I would first of all I don't know if you can read that. I would record their testimonials. When you're doing your celebration event online, record it, and then you can extract some incredible testimonials, and then you can use those in your promotion of your next series. Next thing I would do, I would use that celebration event to be the time when you invite them into membership. And you ask them, are you interested in membership? Let's have a conversation. Because by then, they have already learned your teachings, they've learned something, they've applied something, and they're hearing how these teachings have impacted other people. They're hearing how your mission has come to life. And that is the time to say, hey, if you're into this, if you want to be part of this, part of what we're creating here, part of our mission, then let us talk to you about membership. And I would include in that membership conversation, which is the next step, here's our giving. And I would get them onto a recurring giving cycle as part of that membership conversation. Next thing I would do. I know these are a little hard to see, but the next thing I would do is I would, at that celebration event, let them know about the next series. So as we complete a series, we're always promoting the next series. So if you liked this, here's what we're going to do next. Get excited, join a group, get involved. And then finally, let's see, what else would I have? Let's see. This is where I would invite them. If you loved this and you want to get more involved, lead a group. So at your celebration event, that's where you're saying, sign up now, think about your next group, and if you want to, lead a group. All right, so that's the express mode. I'm going to go back and look at some of your questions real quick before I go to the next step. Jane says, are those spirit groups and Zoom breakouts are separate? We talked about that. Let's see. Jane says, so they get into spirit groups via hearing about it on Facebook. I'm going to get to that in just a second. That's marketing. Can they participate without watching the Sunday talk? Well, the great thing about doing your Sunday talk, and I know some of you do Facebook Live, I prefer Zoom. Either way, what I say is, what I would do is I would do the Sunday experience in Zoom because Zoom builds community better. And then I would extract from that recording pieces that I could put out on Facebook. So that's what I would do. And that way they can, if they miss the talk, they can watch it anytime during the week, or they could even watch it together if they wanted to. Okay, so you would forego this video series that Spirit Groups has available and strictly do 6 weeks. They go with the talk. Right now, I would, even though we have tremendous curriculum available. The reason for that is because then people in your small groups are creating that connection and that bond with the minister. Instead of feeling like this is a book study, this is a book study, this is a random thing, it's going to tie them and help them build that relationship with the minister. And I think right now, the simpler and more cohesive we can make things, the stronger you will be as you transition out of this and beyond. Janet says, can we send this chart? I will. I'll take a photo of it and I'll put it in your follow-up information. I think you're going to have a whole follow-up kit at this point based on, we got lots of resources to share with you afterwards. Okay, but that's not the end. Now we get to step 5. So here we go. Now they are expressing it. They're like, this was amazing. My life has changed. I did service. I did connection. It was wonderful. I had insights. So they're expressing how the teachings have impacted them. This is when we want to then move them into those who are ready. We move them into leadership. And how do we do that? Well, first of all, as we mentioned, we invite them to become members. Invite them to your membership program. And have your membership program mean something. Have it mean that they are going to participate in a small group. Have it mean that they're going to make a financial contribution, even if it's a small one. Decide what your membership means and have that be for those who are ready to take it to the next level and be leaders of your mission. So I'm going to put that down here. Let's see. I'm going to put that right there. And the other piece of this is from here, you typically can see those who are ready to move into leadership. So from these celebration events, it is a fabulous place to see who is showing up and showing up big. Invite them into leadership. What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what that means. Here we go. Let's see what I got. So that might be where you recruit for your board of trustees. Yeah, board of trustees. So we're going to find our board of trustees out of this event. Potential leaders, we're going to find our chaplains. So you can find people that are showing up, people who are very prayerful and lead. I had someone in one of my spirit groups lead the most amazing meditation. And I thought, wow, why did I not know that she could do that? She'd make a great chaplain. All right, so I'm going to put that in there. Okay, this might be a new team. And I'm sharing this because your teams may have changed. You may have old teams that you don't need anymore. So let them go and restructure. Do you have a social media team? What a great way for people to feel connected and to serve. So I would add a social media team. This is people who comment and share and post what's going on in your ministry. You also want to have a youth team, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. So make sure you got something going on for the kids. If you want to grow, we got to grow this next generation. And then, of course, your spirit group leaders. Best place to find spirit groups leaders is out of these celebration events because you can see how people's lives have been impacted. You heard that from Kevin, so I'm going to put that down there too. All right, so that's different types of leadership. Now what? Okay, so now we're down here. Now let's talk about marketing. Jane asked me about this. So up here is where your marketing happens. How do you reach the explorers? This is what I would be doing now. And this is I'm trying to just keep this model as simple as possible. First thing I would do, you probably already have this, Facebook page. I would have a Facebook page for my ministry. And I would also have a website, which most of you already have both of these. Okay? So that's how people find us.
Sorry, I don't know that.
She's going crazy on me over here. Goodbye, Siri. Okay, so I would invite people in through Facebook. I'd be promoting my events, promoting my groups, promoting my sermons, all of that on my Facebook page. and then also having something on the website. Pretty simple. The best way, the best marketing for a church community, you know what that means? WOM, WOM, that's your word of mouth. That is the best way to grow a ministry. So I'm going to put this doesn't happen up here. This happens down here. This happens out of that celebration event where you identify leaders that are so excited that now they want to go and spread the word. So here, these people become your word of mouth. Boom. And that word of mouth is what reaches new explorers. And that is what makes this whole system scalable and makes it grow over time. So I share that because I hear people talk a lot about organic growth. You're like, oh, we're just going to grow organically. And what they mean is they don't really have a plan. And I will tell you, if you look into nature and you look at, for me, my dandelions in the backyard, I could say, well, that's organic growth. But I will also tell you that organic growth is based on a system that is scalable and sustainable. So, first we grow the roots, and then we send up the stem, and then we blossom, and then the blossom folds, and then we have the seeds, and then the seeds spread, and then it happens again and again and again. So we could say, yeah, that's organic growth, but it's built upon a very simple system that can be reproduced. Now, here's a couple other things I would add. First thing I would add, and I would put this here in this expand mode, is I would add a Facebook group that is a private group, but that anybody could join, and encourage my members and my spirit group participants to engage in this group. This is where you can, in a Facebook group, you can create learning units, and that's where I would put your Sunday talks and your discussion guides. All of that can live in a Facebook group where there's discussion happening to build your community. So I'm going to put that here because that's a way of creating expansion and growing and getting conversation going. The other thing I would do, and this ties into another question, is I would create this for families as well. So if your minister is speaking about prosperity, I would have your youth director create a similar curriculum that goes along with it that families can use. And I would create a separate Facebook group specifically for families where you could put those resources. You could put activities for the kids, same topic, but kid friendly, and you can get conversation going there. Again, this is for the parents to be able to have content that they can view with their kids. It also gives you a place for family friendly spirit groups to have content that they can discuss together. Okay, so that's my last envelope. So that's the model. There you go. Business plan in on one page. I love the one page plan, the one page strategy plan. Okay, I'm gonna go to your questions now. Would you start this now or wait until the September cycle? So most of you that are active now would be in the summer cycle, and the summer cycle does end in August, and then we start in the fall with our September cycle. If you don't have anything going now, I would do something now. I would, there's just no time to wait. People need it now. So yeah, if you need to, I would get onto the September schedule so that you're starting with the rest of us in September, but then backtrack, figure out how long you need to make that series so that you can get this going as soon as possible. Eleanor says, are you saying to have one unique spirit group for Sunday Message Explorers exclusively and still keep the other groups going? You could do that. I know lots of churches have a spirit group that is just for the explorers. What I have done in my own ministry is I would say most of my groups stayed open. A closed group is a group that gets started and then you can't get in anymore. An open group is a group where people can come in anytime. But what we ask them is if they come in once as a visitor, we follow up and say, if you liked it, we'd like you to commit to the end of the series. And if it's not a good fit, that's okay. Like there's no commitment for that first visit. But if you come back for a second visit, we ask them to stay till the end. So you can do that when you have an open group. So whether you have a dedicated group for your explorers or you just simply plug them in to existing groups, it doesn't really matter. The main thing is that people aren't waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks to get connected into your community. Say more about the celebration events in the virtual world. So one of the things that I love, so again, I use Facebook for marketing. I use Zoom for building community. You can do amazing things through Facebook. And the nice thing about Facebook, if you're doing a celebration event where you have it facilitated, very much like what I'm doing today. So I have people who've used the program, who are sharing their insights, who are sharing what they've learned. And if I were streaming that through Facebook, I would be having, people that I could reach people that I couldn't reach otherwise. It's not like Zoom where I send the link and it's just those people. So if I'm using this as marketing as well as coming together, I would be tempted to use Facebook for the celebration event and to use a platform. And I can go into Facebook, ask me what I use. There's a lot of incredible technology that is blossoming right now because the need is so great. So I can share that with you on our Facebook group. Cheryl says, you're amazing. I do have a lot of energy because I get really excited about this. Jane says, any wisdom about getting screen time, leery and weary parents to participate in a family-friendly spirit group? So I would say right now, and of course for summer, so it's a little bit different, but back when, we had kids are home from school, if you can have some activities that are fun, I would look for activity-based things that you could do with kids. I would send get the parents on your email list, opt them in, and then I would have your youth director send them an email each week saying, here's what's coming up Sunday. These are the supplies to have on hand. Have some pasta, have some glue, have some, food coloring. Keep it really simple, but have things that families can do together and then tie it into your talk. So I would go very, very hands-on with the kids because parents are looking for things to do. I have a friend of mine who has a business that serves elementary age students. They're exploding right now because they talk about racism. They talk about bullying. They talk about, how to find peace within. And right now, because they're offering online courses for parents and for kids, they're exploding right now because people are looking for things like this online. Okay, let's see. Cheryl says, maybe I just need to recharge by doing this. It does excite me. It energizes me. Martha says, we've heard that kids resist more online time because they're already online for school. Zoom exhaustion. If you have hands-on activities, I would say you could give that to mom and dad. They don't even have to, you could play a little video, keep it short, keep it like 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops, and then get them doing something. So you can set some context so that this is what this is about, and then go do something. Because that's really, not only does that give them some time away from the screen, but it gives them some time with mom and dad as well. How do you put the Zoom password on your Facebook page? You don't. Don't be putting your Zoom password on your Facebook page, or you might have all kinds of crazy happening in your Zoom account. So your Zoom password goes in to your email list, right? Because those are the people who've opted in. So don't put your Zoom links or your passwords on your Facebook page. It's too vulnerable. Build that email list. That email list is super important. Daniel says, what about security in Zoom and how would you handle it for Sunday sermon? I would say don't share your link publicly. Don't share it on your website. I visited many of your websites putting together the expo, and some of you have a big graphic that says join us on Sunday, and it has a link to your Zoom. That is like a recipe for having a flasher come up into your service. And I know it's happened. My friend Shad Groverland in Boulder had that happen the first week of all this. So don't publicize your Zoom link. Zoom has been making modifications after modifications. They are more secure now than they've ever been. And I feel confident. I haven't had any problem with it, sending it out in an email. And then in that email, I would tell people to forward it to people that they want to invite. And there you have your word of mouth. Okay. So they sign up for the email list on Facebook or on the web page. Well, you can do either one. Typically, an opt-in will happen on your website, but Facebook can give you a link. So on your page, you can actually say, click here to go to the page on the website where the opt-in is. And I'm guessing for those of you who use Unity's system for the website, that they probably can set all of that up for you. Email subscription only for Zoom link. Yes. So Martha says, say more about celebration events. On the 10th week of our 10-week cycle, so throughout the month, you have all these groups meeting in all these different places. This is the old model. We meet locally. And then at the 10th week, we bring everybody together and have a special event. Sometimes I would do these as my Sunday service. And instead of doing a sermon, I would bring in the group leaders and they would share what their group did and how it impacted them. And I'd have testimonials, and that would be our Sunday as a celebration of all that had happened in our spirit groups. I've also done it where we've had a potluck after the service. So people stay and we have lunch. I say a few words and then we acknowledge our group leaders and we celebrate, people share, here's what we did. And every group is doing social events, is doing service projects. So we want to hear what happened. We show pictures, all that kind of thing. I've also done them as just standalone, Thursday night, we're going to have a potluck. For this setting, I would say you could do it on Zoom, but if you stream those conversations, they are some of the most powerful conversations that I've ever been a part of. When you hear people say, I don't know that I would be here if not for my spirit group, and to feel the emotion and the depth of the gratitude that people have for their group experience, when they say that in front of a group, there's not a person in the room that doesn't want to be in a spirit group, to not only have that kind of support, but to be that kind of support. So if you can stream that out to your Facebook page, notice we don't have a lot going on. The biggest challenge I think we've had in New Thought is we think we have to do all these things. And what I'm hoping COVID does for us is it helps us focus and realize those extra things, we don't need to do them. We can just keep it simple. And what's nice about this, here's the other piece that I didn't get to share. So let's say we've got all of these spirit groups meeting virtually. And you've got some people that are kind of like, oh, I'm ready to get back. I'm ready to get back in the building. What I would do is I would set up spirit groups that are based on COVID risk. So if I'm low risk, meaning that I don't, I work from home, I'm not out much, I don't have a lot of exposure. If I might feel pretty comfortable meeting in person with other low risk people, other people that aren't out and about a lot. I don't know that I'd feel comfortable meeting with an emergency room nurse who would be a high risk person, or someone, or a moderate exposure person, or someone who's older, who's uncomfortable or very much at risk, very vulnerable. If you were to organize your spirit groups by risk level, you might have the low risk people coming into your facility first, and then the moderate exposure people coming in second, and the high risk people might stay online for quite a while. I mean, it could be a year before we have a vaccine where people feel really comfortable exposing themselves to something. So if you had your spirit groups set up into risk levels, you could gradually bring them in based on when that group felt comfortable, and the ones who don't feel comfortable still have a place to go. So that would be my suggestion for transitioning in. That also gives you feedback. Like my friend who thought everybody was going to want to be at our Rotary Club meeting, and only 13 people showed up out of 120. People aren't feeling comfortable yet. He thought they were, they really weren't. So this is a way to test the ground. Eleanor, if you do Sundays on Zoom, you can put the link in your email blast, weekly communications. Absolutely. So what you do is you say, this week, here's what we're going to talk about. Here's the link to the kids' curriculum, and here's the link to be able to join us on Zoom. Kevin says, curious how Zoom services are more engaging than Facebook Live. What is the real benefit of streaming on Zoom versus Facebook Live? So Facebook Live will give you a false sense, in my opinion, it'll give you a false sense of confidence in terms of how engaging your service is. I know I've had a lot of people say, oh yeah, Sunday morning, I'm just popping over, place to place to place to place. So I've had friends who are like, oh my gosh, I had 2,000 people join me on Facebook. We've never had that many. And what I tell people is go into your analytics, because 2,000 eyeballs is not the same as having 2,000 people dedicate an hour of their life to being with you for your service. On Facebook, it's very easy to be transient. It's also, Facebook is set up to distract you to go to other places. It is a marketing engine. So it is great to get people to come check you out. It is not great for, in my opinion, for creating community. When people come into Zoom, and this would be a Zoom meeting, not a Zoom webinar. If you are a larger church, you would have to go to the webinar format. And it might be a little different for you, but for a smaller church, the Zoom meetings, when everybody's on camera, there's accountability. There's seeing each other's faces. That's, oh, you're here, you're here, you're here. So I say, there's also the consistency of, it looks like your Sunday service. It's the same people, same prayer chaplains, the same people doing announcements. You're seeing familiar faces, and people also have an opportunity to connect and to say, hey, it's good to see you. How are you? So I find that it's easier to build community in Zoom. People tend to stay for the whole thing versus on Facebook, where it's a little more challenging. I also find in Zoom, it's a good place to be able to say, hey, if you're new, here's the link to go click on so you can get our welcome kit. And so that is why I recommend Zoom. Facebook is all right, but it doesn't, it's not designed to build community. I mean, the groups are more so than the Facebook live streams. We have switched back to Facebook Live, and then you share it to YouTube. Yeah, I'm all about like sharing stuff. And I would say, even if you're doing Zoom, take those recordings, put them on your Facebook group, put them on your YouTube channel. I would say in Facebook world, if you have eyeballs on your Facebook feed for 3 minutes, Facebook considers that a huge success. And that tells you a lot about what Facebook is there for. So what I always do is record it on Zoom, and then I would chop it up into small segments. I'd put the opening prayer onto my Facebook channel and my YouTube channel. I would put the message standalone on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel. I would take, special music. Here's the other thing that I've had happen. I've had people tell me they're streaming their service to Facebook Live. The band starts singing and they get cut off. And I've had this happen too, where I've gone to Facebook Live. As soon as I hit stop, they've already pulled my feed because they think there's a copyright infringement on the music. And whether there is or isn't, they can pull it until they can verify that you have copyrights. So then I've lost everything and I can't get it back until Facebook says I can have it. With Zoom, you don't have that issue. If I have a song that if I'm playing It's a Wonderful World or whatever it is, I can take that song out and take the pieces and put it up on Facebook and put it up on YouTube. People are also more likely to watch shorter segments. So that's my thinking on that. We do live Zoom services on Sundays. Awesome. We have a weekly newsletter, Janet says, that people can sign up for. When they sign up, they receive a Zoom link and all of our programs. And the link is secure. Dayla says there's a trust factor that needs to be in place for people to feel comfortable in Zoom, especially for people of color if diversity is lacking in a group and it's new for them. Yeah, and know that, it's like people don't have to have their cameras on, and you can that's a great point. And it's actually a point I hadn't thought of before. So thanks for bringing that up. If you think that might be a concern, just let people know they can come and they can keep their cameras off and they can check it out, and there's no need to interact. The only ones that need to interact are the ones who are part of the service. And I like Zoom because it's an easy platform for getting people to do the things that you're used to seeing them do. Janet says we also live stream to YouTube Live. So people miss the link, they can also see it on YouTube. Yeah, so YouTube's a great channel as well. I think sometimes we think we have to be everywhere. And I always say, if you can't be everywhere well, pick the one that you can do well. Now there's so many services that let you stream to multiple places that, that's great, especially if you have a limited staff and limited resources. If you can do one stream that goes multiple places, fantastic. If not, don't worry if you can't be everywhere. Just be somewhere and do it well. Whitney says, I'm more thinking about my kiddo running around. I enjoy watching while I work. Yeah, I have people all the time who's like, okay, life is crazy going on behind me. I'm just going to turn off my camera, turn off my audio, and I'm going to get what I can get out of it. I know Jenna likes to do a little photo bomb. She likes to run in and say hi. You're going to see her later on today as well. We're living life at the same time. We're many of us at home, and it does have its challenges. For those of you who are doing the service, though, I think you can set up the environment to be able to be distraction-free. Quality of Zoom audio is better than Facebook, so there's that too. And again, this is what I would do, and it's based on this model and how to make this as easy and seamless as possible. Not saying that this is the only way how, but this is the way that I would do it. So this is a model that I think would be very easy to shift you from a local experience to a virtual experience, and then to be able to hybrid back in and to be able to go back and forth pretty easily. The other thing that's nice about building this is that you can always use this. So even once you go back to meeting in your sanctuaries, everything you build here is going to continue to be useful for you. It's going to continue to allow you to reach beyond the walls of your church. I'm going to take us into breakout sessions. But I'd like to give you a chance just to check in with each other and share, as you're doing now, share what you're doing, share maybe why you're doing it. You may have a good case for doing Facebook Live and say, Mindy thinks this, but I think that, and that's cool too. So connect with each other, share what you're doing now and what your thoughts are on transitioning as well. So when we come back, I'm going to be sharing what is new for 2020 and how we are rolling out and making adjustments for the new world we live in. So love and blessings to you. I'm going to hang out here in the chat room as well. So if you have questions for me, stick around. Otherwise, head over to those sessions and enjoy connecting with some new people. All right.